You're basically admitting I was shallow.
I was shallow.
And I'm so glad.
I'm so glad that I let go of the shallowness.
Yeah. But instead of being celebrated, people were like, how dare you talk about you being shallow?
Yeah. What's up, everybody? It's Kait
and JJ.
And this is season 13 of the Heart of Dating podcast.
This is a fun season.
It's a lucky number 13.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that. What's so special about this season?
This season, we're doing Christian hot takes, Christian dating hot takes.
Wow. So
we're basically going to be going through some of the kind of more controversial statements, thoughts, situations when it comes to Christian dating. And we're going to be sharing our thoughts and opinions.
Okay, I have a thought.
Yes.
Because sometimes people have hot takes and it's a little bit more because they would just want to be controversial or stir the pot.
Right.
Or be different or unique. Is that what we're going for?
We're not just trying to stir the pot. No. We really want to talk about, there is no one set way to do Christian dating, okay? But everybody's out here having all different opinions, all like doing dating all different kinds of ways. And one of our big goals here through Heart of Dating is to get whoever listens to this podcast on the same playing field. You know, like let's try to answer some of these things that are really confusing that nobody really has a blueprint for and say, okay, what do we really think about this? How do we maybe get on the same page with this?
Yeah, I like that. So are you saying that hot takes and controversial takes, they can be constructive? Like they can be,
I think so.
They can actually be not just entertaining, like it's entertaining to hear a hot take like Taylor Swift is demonic, you know, like while I don't subscribe to that, it's going to probably be entertaining at least to listen to, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But you're saying controversial takes can also be like encouraging, edifying, constructive.
Yes.
Okay. What would an example of that be?
Like the one we're talking about today?
What are we talking about today?
That I wasn't initially attracted to you.
Oh, that's what we're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my, we're starting off.
You know that. You stop it right now. You knew that's what
we're starting off with you talking about how you thought I was ugly.
I never said that. That's what people thought I said, but
yeah, that's what people definitely interpreted. Okay, I can't wait. So
well, before we dive in, just a few things. If you're watching us on YouTube, what's up, everyone? We moved to Franklin, Tennessee, and we're in the process of creating our new podcast studio. We actually do have some new lighting, which I'm pretty stoked about because, not going to lie, we don't really know what we're doing sometimes when it comes to lighting.
We have no idea.
So we had somebody help us, and I think the lighting looks way better, but you can only see that if you're watching us on YouTube.
Yeah, and fun fact, if you're ever recording, you can't have conflicting lights.
Yeah, like temperatures.
Right. So if you have a warm light, like a sunshine outside that's warm,
yeah,
and then you have like a bright, cool LED light,
it's like gonna make you look horrible.
Yes.
Which we didn't know. Wow, fun fact. And we were doing that all the time.
Yeah, we look like Donald and Ivanka Trump, you know, just like orangey, fuzzy.
Oh gosh. No, it's more like
found myself talking like him.
Oh my gosh, stop it. Yes, talk about controversial. Just bring that up. But hey, we want to invite you to join us on YouTube, like and subscribe. You know, I feel like such a YouTuber saying that. A few other quick announcements. We have been having a blast in Patreon, and about a month and a half ago, we did a Patreon matchmaking event, and word on the street is we are actually going to be bringing back our Patreon matchmaking event because it's so much fun. We basically take a bachelor and a bachelorette and we set them up on blind dates with multiple people. And then they get to choose out of those multiple people who they want to get to know a little bit more. So we do this whole event. And you can apply to be match made if you're in Patreon at the $5 level.
I totally thought you were going to say word on the street is we have a success story and you're about to.
Well, we've only been doing these matchmaking events in Patreon for a few months.
Okay.
So
any success?
Yes, there is some things behind the scenes that are going well, but they're trying to pace themselves out.
We had an attendee message us saying, hey, by the way, if this bachelorette didn't work out, I would love to get in touch. So,
but come on, join the party at Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Heart of Dating. And it's just a way that if you want to support this podcast, it really does help us. Right now, we are also starting our School of Dating mentorship program for the summer. So sadly, you can no longer join us because we just kicked it off last night for this round. But you can join us this fall if you want to get on a list to be the first to know and sign up with a discount. Text the word first dibs to 214-225-7772. Cool. Awesome. Wow, it's summertime. We're doing some hot takes. So let's get into it, JJ. All right, so let's talk about the hot take, which is that you don't have to be instantly physically into the person that you are dating. And I wasn't initially physically that into you. Not because, this is important, not because you are unattractive or because I thought you were just so unattractive or quote ugly. Okay. No, I didn't think you were ugly. I didn't think you were unattractive. I wasn't physically attracted to you.
Could you just say I just didn't think much of you?
You weren't my type, physical type. Like we all have some sort of physical type of that would be our physical ideal type, right?
Yeah.
Almost everybody has.
But physically, if we're talking about physically, you physically saw me on a Zoom call. And even after, we could talk about our first FaceTime date.
Yeah.
And there was nothing that leaped out at you.
Right. If I had seen you in a room of people with the way you were, specifically because of how you dressed and because you were younger, there were so many factors where I would have been no, I probably wouldn't double take. You had blue hair at the time. You had a black earring. You wore drop crotch jeans and things that were mismatched.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have probably saw you in a room and been ooh, I'm really physically into that guy.
Okay. So was not love at first sight for you?
No. I mean, I don't really believe necessarily in love at first sight at all.
How would you define love at first sight
I think it's more lust at first sight.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think people are ooh, because you can't physically love someone. Love is a choice, not a feeling. Love is developed through time. So when people say love at first sight, I feel like it's more lust at first sight or there's a draw, it's some sort of spark in chemistry, which is very much often driven by a physical lust in a sense.
I could see that.
Physical, just drawn to the other person.
It's almost like you're, you know what? It's almost like you're attracted to a fantasy that you're projecting over that person.
Yeah.
Based off, if it's a puzzle piece.
Yeah.
And you're your soul, your mind, your emotions, your health, your spiritual faith, you all complete a puzzle. Mm-hmm. It's taking one piece of that puzzle, which is their looks, how they physically came across, and then you're assuming that the other 99 pieces of that puzzle paints this perfect, beautiful portrait landscape.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's a projection.
Totally.
That's a fantasy.
Yeah, it's a complete fantasy. So the hot take is that you don't necessarily need that crazy physical spark, chemistry, attraction at the beginning to end up with someone or to even date them. And I want to back up because why this is such a big deal is I did some posts late last year in 2023 on Instagram, some reels that went massively viral. Okay. And
well, how viral?
Well, the biggest one was like 18 million, I think. And there were 3 main reels on this one. I think 3, maybe 4. Okay. But there was especially one that went really, really viral. So here were 2 of them. It was a video of us, and then it was a POV caption. The one that hit 18 million said, POV, you don't find them initially attractive, but decide to push past your superficial type and end up totally in love. Okay. And then the second one that was also pretty viral, POV, you dated someone you weren't initially attracted to, but now you find them the most attractive person on the planet. Okay. So
you called me ugly.
No. Did I call you ugly?
No.
Did you hear that? And think that, oh my gosh, my wife just told the entire internet that I'm ugly.
Well, obviously I know you. Right. And I know if you say something, like there's probably a little bit more meaning behind it.
Yeah.
I don't think I would read that from a stranger.
Yeah.
And go straight to,
she's saying he's ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I would.
Did.
But at first glance, if I was in my busy day, blah, 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 and that's what happened. A lot of people did hear that. And what did they hear? They
heard, wow, she settled for a guy she thought she was ugly, and she's blasting him on the entire internet.
Yeah.
That's in essence what a lot of people ended up hearing.
What were the comments like?
So yeah, in fact, thank you for saying that. I have quite a few of them written down here. So let's
you kept receipts?
No, at first I've never had a post go this viral and have such negative comments said about me.
Okay.
So it was definitely a moment where I had to stop looking at some of the comments because it just wasn't healthy for me.
Do you think that you hit a nerve?
Yeah. And here's the thing, when something goes viral, or when you're posting something that might be a little like ruffle some feathers, I think what I do is I always take it back to the Lord, and I'm like, Lord, is this something you want me to post? Is this something that like you stand by?
Like, does it glorify you?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Is it true?
Is my intention, my heart, this message something that glorifies you? And every time I did that and I brought it back to the Lord, it was a clear yes. It was like, absolutely. And also because you and I were on the same page about this.
Yeah.
You were like, you wanted me to post this.
Okay. Can we pause?
Yeah.
Because that was actually really profound. What would you say is the truth and the glorification of God in the message?
Oh, the glorification of God was, hey, it's not just about this lustful physical draw to begin with. It's so much more about godly character, godliness, and who they are through time that will draw you to that person. And I think that in general, that's what the Lord wants for us to do, is really look at the heart of a person. I don't think that God, at the same breath, I don't think God desires for us to marry someone that we're not physically attracted to.
Okay, so it's still important.
It's still important.
But
the initial draw to somebody doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Because that's more worldly, in my opinion. And that's not to say that doesn't happen to Christian couples and they get married. Like that might happen to lots of couples where they think the person is really hot and sexy off the bat, right?
Yeah, like that. I hear Christian testimonies of marriage that start off with that. Like,
yep. But I found
they were.
Yeah, like the, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I heard there's a specific pastor I'm thinking about we've talked about.
Yes.
And it was like very, very, almost like explicit in the way he was talking about how attracted
he was at first glance.
And you're not saying that's wrong, but you're also not.
No, like,
but you're also saying that's not the only way.
Like the Song of Songs, like he is very much physically drawn to his woman, and vice versa, so it's,
but they're about to get married.
Right. They are. Yeah. It's their wedding night. Right. So it's very important to be physically attracted to the person that you are marrying. Okay. But what I'm saying is what people don't believe is that physical attraction can grow. I'm not saying all people, but the people on the internet that didn't like my post were like, oh my gosh, You think he's ugly. You should have never married him. You settled. They were like, poor guy. He's really attractive. Let me read some of the comments, actually.
Okay.
This one. You're not a 10 out of 10 either, especially at your age. Okay. Just going to keep going. Bye. I would delete myself if my man posted this. You could have gone about your day without posting this.
That's true. That's true.
I would actually never get out of bed again if my life partner not only didn't find me attractive when we met, but also went around talking about it online.
See, that is, I love the honesty of that comment. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a very honest comment. And I think that encapsulates a lot of the attitudes.
Yes.
Because what is shattering in that comment?
It's shattering because this person draws a lot of value from probably every person has insecurities of some kind. And a lot of people have body insecurities, especially women. And so if you haven't conquered those and your partner like verbally says, I wasn't that attracted to you in the beginning, but now I am. If you are still pretty insecure in the way you see yourself, that's going to feel pretty shattering.
Totally. I mean, in idols, anything we say in our heart of hearts, I have to have that in order to truly be happy, satisfied, fulfilled. But I have to have a partner. Like, this screams Disney programming 101. Yes. They lock eyes, and they are just enthralled. And if that doesn't happen, then I don't want it.
Right. Yeah, you're totally right. And that is the programming that we have, that it's supposed to be the sparks and love at first sight and attraction at first sight. And if it's not that, then, I don't want it.
Well, what about this comment? And I'm so curious because we actually didn't talk about this one.
Yeah.
Imagine if he wrote this about her.
Right.
Do you think I could have posted like something like this? And imagine the hate you got for saying it about a man. Do you feel like the game would have changed even more if I posted something about not being physically attracted to you, and now I got over it? And
one second, I want to back up and I think you need to verbally say this, that I would have never posted this without getting your permission and making sure you were fully comfortable.
Totally.
A lot of people's assumption is that I didn't.
Yeah, and I really don't care like what they think as far as did you get permission or not. I think the most important thing here is...
I think that is important, I think, because it's honoring of your person.
Yeah, if you're going to be vulnerable and share something like this, which is vulnerable information, I like the comment, but also went around talking about it online. Like, I would never be okay with that. And I understand, like, you're sharing vulnerable information about yourself, about me. Like, I have to be able to, quote, handle that kind of information. Mm-hmm. And I have to be okay with you talking about it.
Well, and actually, I remember what I was going to say a second ago, which is that the funny part about these posts was also that the majority of these posts wasn't actually focusing on you. It was actually calling myself out for being superficial.
Yeah.
Because I was drawn to some weird fantasy type that was very specific and very alienating. And that was superficial.
You were tattling on yourself.
Yeah, I was tattling because the things about you that I didn't, quote, wasn't attracted to were superficial. Your hair, an earring, your style, which yes, has changed. You don't really have that same hair, that earring, the style that you used to. But I was calling myself out that I was superficial. Yeah. And people are overlooking that.
Totally. But people were projecting the pain and the fear that if their spouse ever said something like that to them, they could, one, never handle it. And two, they could not even imagine that being shared publicly.
Right. So your question, if you were to share it about me, I would hope we discuss that beforehand. I think that is important. And B, it would, like, if we were secure in our relationship and I did not question ever that you were physically attracted to me, which I don't, I would be totally fine with it because, like, I would understand, especially back in the day, like a few years ago, I wore tons of makeup. I had really different style as well. And it was just, there's a lot of insecurity in why I dressed that way. But if I looked that way when we started dating and then, I started getting rid of all the layers and layers of makeup and my style became a little more neutral, I could see like, hey, yeah, actually, yeah, I can totally see what you mean. Like that style and the way I looked wasn't that great, actually. And I would be totally okay with that. With you saying I wasn't really attracted to all the makeup you were wearing.
Yeah.
And your over the top style and wearing heels every day. Like that wasn't really my thing.
Right. I mean,
I would be okay with that.
Yeah, I know you would. But what's funny.
And you said that about my past.
Yeah, I don't prefer it. But to be honest, though, I just think there's something about the attitude of types and attraction about it's just so consumptionary.
Yes.
Like it's just so like what you do for me, how you bring value to my life and what turns me on and what I like. Mm-hmm. Like I think the most healthy relationships have a complete respect for the other person's autonomy, style, the way they look, and they actually find a way to appreciate it too.
Totally. I hear what you're saying. Like, and you do still have that unique part of you. Doing a mullet,
didn't that because
raccoon shirt.
But part of a healthy relationship is, although I wish I could wear a tropical shirt or a raccoon shirt every day. If we're going on date night tonight, and we are in about 5 hours, there is a desire to want to please your spouse
in some way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there is a healthy desire in that. Now, when that desire grows into an idol saying, pleasing you is the only thing I live for, and I can only be happy and satisfied if you're happy, well, then you got a codependent problem. Yeah. Right. But there is a healthy desire in the sense of wanting to please your spouse.
Yeah.
Right. Meaning I want to dress nice to you, not because I care about how I come across to the people we're going to see or their server, because I want to come across as attractive towards you and show you that I care.
Right.
And you do care and you do appreciate when I put a little bit more effort into my hair and I clip my beard and I smell not like, I BO from the gym, right? Like you care about those things.
Yeah, I do.
So as a loving partner, if that is something in my control and autonomy that I can do, that is easy. Why would I not want to do that?
Totally.
Right.
All right, guys, quick break in today's episode because this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. It's about halfway through the year, and I want to just check in. How has 2024 been going for you? Seriously, think about it. How has this year been going for you? Has it been really hard? Has it been really amazing? Have you never really stopped to think about how it has been going? What's something you're really proud of? What's something you still really want to accomplish this year? Honestly, the past 6 months have been absolutely wild and crazy for JJ and I. Obviously, we had a baby and we moved across the country and so many other things in between. And one of the things that has been a lifesaver in our relationship is therapy, okay? Y'all, we are such big fans of therapy, and that's why it's such a joy to be able to partner with BetterHelp, an amazing organization that offers virtual therapy. Everything with this therapy is entirely online, which means you can be from the comfort of your home doing sessions. There's really no excuse when you don't even have to drive anywhere to be able to do it, okay? It's also great because you get a therapist that's specifically matched to you after you fill out a simple questionnaire. And if you don't like your therapist, you can change your therapist at any time, which is also incredible. And we have so many people in our Heart of Dating community that have used BetterHelp and just love it. So if it's the middle of 2024 and you're like, man, things are coming up for me, or I'm just not where I thought I would be, then try therapy. Give it a shot. You can go ahead and visit betterhelp.com/HOD to get 10% off your first month with BetterHelp. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/HOD to get 10% off your first month of therapy. Back to your question, if you posted that, I would feel comfortable with it.
Okay, but like, do you feel like the dynamic in general though, like for a male finding a female not initially attractive, like is that going to be more controversial? Like from a male to female perspective, would that have been more? It
probably would be because I don't know if it'd be controversial. I think it would be controversial. I would just think that people were like, wow, that's so rare, like because the thing we hear all the time is like, oh, guys need to be physically drawn at first glance.
Yeah. I think it pisses off a lot of men and women.
Yeah.
I do.
Should we read some of the other comments?
Sure.
Okay. I hope you find someone who loves him.
Wait, what?
That's what someone said.
Oh, I hope he finds someone who loves him.
Uh-huh.
Oh, because you were not physically attracted to me, therefore
That
you
means
don't
I
love
don't
me.
love him.
Well, there you go.
Or maybe because I posted that, it means I don't love you.
Well, they're literally saying if you don't love them and how they look on first sight, then you can't love them.
Right.
You don't truly love them.
Right.
I have to find someone who's fascinated and obsessed with me from the first moment, or else they don't actually love me.
It also assumes that we all are like have a perfect lens while we're dating. Like we don't have anything superficial driving any consumeristic part of us that's driving the way we date. Like it assumes that we're just like dating perfectly and very purely.
That is so funny. Well, you know what's funny is when this went viral and stuff, obviously like when it goes that viral, you pay more attention to it. Like you follow comments.
I mean, not only that, it was on TikTok and
I found it on
Twitter.
I found it on my Twitter feed randomly. I was going through, and they have like a Twitter kind of converted to like a For You algorithm, like TikTok, like trending content that you don't follow pops up.
Yeah.
And I opened Twitter, and there is my wife on full blast and a video of us dancing, on a golf course. I was like, that is pretty funny. Like.
Well, and then there was a podcast made.
So yeah, what I want to talk about is there's a podcast of those Australian chicks. And what was so funny is after bashing you for the first 5, 10, 15 minutes, they actually stop and pause and say, what's ironic though is I have a couple friends who actually need to hear this message. I was like, wait, what? After they judged you and shamed you, they said, what's funny though is I get what she was trying to say. Now that I think about it and talked about it, and I actually think there's a couple of my girlfriends who need to hear this because they've been overlooking great guys because they weren't physically feeling a spark at first. Yeah. And they've been chasing a spark, which is also equal to finding guys typically with terrible character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, well, this is the funny thing, and we can read some more of these comments, but what I find is so funny is that a lot of people are into the show Love is Blind. We've talked about it many times here. We like the show. It's, obviously reality TV. But the reason why people like it, I feel like, is because, and the premise of the show is that you don't see the person and you're trying to remove all of those superficial physical barriers and connect with somebody on an emotional level, on a personality level, right? On these different layers of attraction outside of physical. And the whole experiment is you connect on those levels and the physical doesn't really matter that much, that it will come if all of those other things are there. And so what you see is when somebody proposes and then they meet and see each other for the first time, if one of the people in that couple isn't as physically drawn and they're like, now it changes everything for them, you see that person on social media get slammed. Like, oh my gosh, you're so superficial. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing that. Like you see this over and over. It's like, oh my gosh, you can tell.
Like they're so superficial.
Yeah, like look, they're such a good match, but they just can't get over the looks and you're just so superficial.
They're so shallow.
You're so shallow. Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, wait, but like literally, so I don't understand. That's why I don't understand why so many people hated this post, because this
you were
post
admitting
is in line with the Love is Blind.
Well, you were basically admitting I was shallow.
I was shallow.
And I'm so glad
that I let go of the shallowness.
Yeah. But instead of being celebrated, people were like, how dare you talk about you being shallow?
Yeah. When I'm like,
yeah, that's funny.
It's so funny. I'm like,
well, maybe you should repost it and be like, I was a shallow in the beginning of a relationship and I'm so glad I got over it. I wonder how that would
be. No, it would still be the same thing. I'm telling you, people want to see what they want to see.
Well, the next comment is maybe feel it, but don't say it. I'm like, that is such a funny thing to say, right? Because if no one says this out loud, then we're all kind of just wandering in our shallowness with no encouragement or challenge to get out of it.
Well, and I hear what this person is saying. They're saying, hey, they're assuming that again, it comes back to you are secure. We are secure.
Well,
you are secure in yourself and we are secure in one another.
Can I give you an example? I was at the gym this morning.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a girl walking around and there are women there who wear sports bras and very tight pants. If I
not pants, like shorts.
Right. And I feel a temptation to look at them twice, 3 times, 4 times, check them out in the corner of the mirror. If I feel that temptation, I feel that, and I never say it, especially to a close friend, to a group of men I'm teaching or leading.
Yeah.
That doesn't help anybody, because the reality is that my closest friend, my mentor, a group of guys I happen to be leading, the likelihood that they're all feeling that same temptation or challenge is 1,000%.
Well,
so me not saying it out loud is not only going to hurt me because I'm internalizing and suppressing it and never confessing it and getting that kind of group accountability and visibility, but they're also underserved, and it's going to hurt them too, because they're going to feel like they're the only ones who maybe struggle with that.
I completely agree. Now, where I think that people are having an issue with this is they're basically saying, I agree with you. You should share it in a men's group. But maybe people even listening to this now would be like, well, you should never say that to your wife. Like, like you can't be honest with your wife about that. That's going to make her feel so insecure and unsafe and not feel like she can trust you. And that's what they're
It's scary.
saying.
It's vulnerable, right?
Well, but it's more so like, oh, that might flare up her insecurities and make her feel like, oh, you're looking at other girls.
You can't say that.
You can't be honest with. And again, that's what comes back to, I think what I'm saying is like, I would never have posted this if there was distrust between us.
Yeah.
And if, for example, if you had betrayed me in some way ever in our relationship,
like in a small way or a big way?
A big way with a girl. Like I caught you messaging a girl behind my back.
Okay.
I probably, and we were still recovering from that, I probably wouldn't be comfortable with you posting a post that like you weren't initially attracted to me.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, totally.
Because, oh my gosh, like I'm feeling a bit insecure in our relationship and maybe a little insecure in myself. And that you posting that is just
publicly for millions to see
is going to highlight my insecurity.
Yeah, I could see that.
So I think the big reality here is also there's probably a lot of people that have never experienced being secure in themselves or secure in a relationship to be able to share those kinds of truthful things.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. The biggest problem in a lot of relationships is the inability to be deeply and truly honest with one another.
Yeah.
And I would say if you don't have that, then you don't have true relationship.
And I would also say there's probably times where, let's say I gained 50 pounds and, I know that you would love me no matter what, but
I mean, you did. I mean, you just got pregnant.
Well, yeah, I did. I gained not 50, but yeah, I gained a good amount of weight. Thank you for saying that. Anyway, but let's say
I now look like a punk. You didn't gain 50, but you gained double-digit number of pounds.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Thank you for reminding me.
I mean, you were
Everybody
pregnant.
does. Everybody does.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just saying, let's say I gained a lot of weight and you weren't as physically drawn to me because of how much weight I had gained. Okay. But I was super insecure about it. And I was constantly beating up on myself because, oh my gosh, I gained all this weight. Oh my gosh, I gained all this weight. That's probably not the time for you to be like, hey, yeah, I'm not really attracted to you physically.
Right. But therefore I don't love you.
And yeah, exactly. So I'm just saying there's probably, yes, a place and a time to share some of those intimate things. You have to use discretion.
Yeah, I see that.
That's what I'm saying. And again, people are probably projecting, a lot of people are commenting to me. It was like, oh my gosh, I don't fully feel secure in myself physically. So if my partner posted that about me, that would completely crush my world.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. What do you do if you're not physically attracted to them? Like and I love this thought, like if you looked at me in a small group, and that we didn't say anything, we didn't share any mind-blowing, deeply mature answers on the verse we just read. I'm not saying I would have done that. I might have.
Yeah.
You're saying you would have looked at me and then kept going with your life.
Probably, yeah.
And you would not have picked me out of a room.
No.
Okay. So, but what you're saying is if you find yourself doing that and you're not physically attracted to someone, what should you do? Meaning if they are
and
a godly,
they ask you on a date.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say, like, so the thing about that is if you straight up just asked me on a date and I didn't know you at all.
Yeah, like after that night.
I probably wouldn't necessarily be interested now, or I might say no. But if I
had a friend tell you right before I asked you out, hey, someone might be asking you out. Here's their name. I know them pretty well. And they are a great dude.
Yes.
Like they have great character.
That would maybe make me be like, hey, I know they might not be your physical cup of tea, but they're a really great person and a really godly guy. And I think that they might be really good for you. If someone said that to me before, I'd be like, oh, yeah. I mean, and that comes back to why I did say yes to going on a date with you, because I had the Mac and Kens vouch for you and they knew you and they were like, he's a really great guy. And, I stalked your Instagram and I thought I was one of the weirdest Instagrams I'd ever seen.
Thank you.
And, but what I did appreciate about you was that I could tell you didn't really care what people thought about you. And I thought that was an awesome quality. And I could tell you were fun. And I thought that was also really cool. And so I was like, yeah, I mean, the blue hair, this is not really my jam. But I would say, like, I didn't also look at you and think, oh, he's repulsive to look at. Like, he's like, I would never, ever, ever, like, even be remotely interested.
So would you say as long as you don't find them repulsive and they have great godly character, you should say yes to go out on a date?
Yeah.
Because physical attraction, can grow.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I think it can grow because I know one thing, it can absolutely fade based off the emotional and spiritual maturity of that person. I mean, I think about what I found myself doing when I was in the most unhealthy phases of my dating story was I find a girl who is, quote, strikingly beautiful. I would project that fantasy. I would fill in all the dots. They must be godly. They must be mature. They must be selfless. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, I would realize they were not that. So not only was I coping with the disappointment of, they're letting down this totally unfair fantasy, but 2, like if we would ever fight or have a conflict and, that emotional, spiritual, like, not perfect person came out, I would realize how physically unattracted I would become in those moments.
Totally.
So it is malleable.
Yeah, it is. So yes, I do think you should give them a shot. There are multiple different buckets of attraction. There's not just physical, there's emotional, spiritual, intellectual, personality, and attraction can grow over time. So
physical attraction. And all the other ones obviously too.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, why do you think this post hit such a nerve?
Yeah, I mean, I think one, people were like shocked at how honest you were. I think that's probably rare, which I think is a great thing for people to be challenged with. I mean, I still remember a year ago, we went to a conference on sexuality with Preston Sprinkle, and there was a couple up there who he was able to admit to her pretty early on in their marriage that he was both same-sex attracted and attracted to her. And just seeing them talk about it on a stage up there and how amazing it was to just see that deep soul level, sacred level of honesty was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so amazing to watch them both be able to handle their spouse be deeply honest.
Yeah.
And personally, I think relationship just absolutely plateaus when you can't be honest with the other person. I think the same thing happens in our relationship with Christ, with our mentors, and with our closest friends.
Right.
The second you feel like you have to withhold information, I don't feel like you have true relationship because, there's a lot of reasons and fears why you might withhold, but what you ultimately believe is if this person knows this information about me, then they truly won't accept me.
Yeah.
They truly won't love me. So I think that's hard for people. And then I also think that, like we talked about earlier, I think it really hit a nerve about the Disney, this person has to look at me and from the get-go just absolutely be physically enthralled, obsessed, feel a spark. And if I don't have that, like that really hit a significant nerve for people, that their spouse might not find them initially attractive.
Yeah.
And that's different from finding them attractive at all, which I want to be like, do you know how marriage was ran for the past 3,000 years at all?
It was arranged.
There had nothing to do with physical attraction.
Yeah.
And they made it work.
Yeah.
A lot of times. So I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying, I think for some people to hear that their spouse physically might not be attracted to them at first,
right,
is a really, really tough truth to swallow.
Yeah.
Because it's not what they want and truly desire.
Yeah, which is part of that fairy tale. I think why this hits on such a nerve as well, I want to add, is that people have a fear that they're going to end up with somebody that they're not physically attracted to.
Yeah, there's definitely probably that mix in it as well.
Yeah, there's a fear of like, man, I'm just going to settle for somebody I'm not physically attracted to.
Yeah.
And people saw this post and these posts and they said, she settled. She settled for a guy she's not physically
They
into.
thought that you settled for me.
Yeah, that was some of the comments. They're like, she
Dang.
settled.
So I should be offended.
Yes, you should be totally offended.
Okay, so Kait, I'm not physically attracted to you as a guy or vice versa. How long should I give it? Like you ask me out, I maybe reluctantly or 50-50 meh. I say yes. I only say yes because my friend vouches for your character or you seem like you have great character. How long should I wait to, be able to say I am physically attracted? And what would qualify the physical attraction? Like I want to kiss them. Right. I am okay holding their hand. Like it's not a chore for me.
Or does it like gross me out?
I find them beautiful. Like what is that physical attraction even? What does it need to be for me to say I'm physically attracted to them?
I mean, I don't think there's a one set rule to this, but I mean, I would at least give it 45 days of going on dates. I don't know how many dates. I'm not going to give it a specific number per se, but I would say at least
month
45
and a half.
days. And when we talk about dating, we talk about it as the 60 to 90 days of getting to know someone before being in a relationship. So before getting into a relationship with the person, I would say there has to be some sort of physical attraction that's growing towards this person.
Okay.
That's what I would encourage. Like I got into a relationship with you around that 90-day mark. And at that point, I was physically attracted to you.
Okay.
But it was in that first 30 days that I was like, I don't know.
And so, but again, how would you define I was physically attracted to you? Like is it just if finding someone repulsive, which even then I would have a problem with how that's even said,
right,
based on the fact that we're like, but how would you define physical attraction? Like if I was married to them, I could be turned on and have sex with them.
Right. Like I wouldn't say don't picture yourself having sex with them. Okay. But like, does the idea of kissing them repulse you or not? I mean, that's probably a good basis.
Okay.
Like, I can tell you there's definitely people that I've been like, no, like the idea of kissing them makes me not feel good.
Yeah. I mean, look, it is a weird thought to play with. But as I look back on my dating journey, I said no to women because I was, quote, not physically attracted to them.
Yeah.
And they had great character recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of regret that because if I now ask that question in hindsight, would I have been repulsed to kiss someone? I would have said absolutely not. I definitely think they're somewhat attractive. I just don't know if they're, quote, attractive enough. That's
right, because the standard is way too high.
And I would absolutely say my standard was very skewered. Mm-hmm. My standard is very, by porn.
Yeah.
By Instagram.
Yep.
I knew what a woman could look like, and I even had an idea of what a woman could physically not really even look like, but I was attracted to, like an edited version of a woman
in your mind,
like so curvy, so symmetrically. Yeah. Just like a disgusting, like 10 out of 10 kind of level
for you, which is
right.
The interesting thing is that that's also different for every person.
It is different, but but I look back now, I'm like, man, my scale was so skewered. I would get so picky on dating apps specifically. Like
that's where it gets bad.
There might have been I think about a great example. There was a girl who seemed super godly, amazing personality, loved football, and like her just smile was just somewhat off. Like it just wasn't a perfect smile. And I just wasn't that physically attracted to her because of something so small.
Yeah.
And I didn't end up going on dates with her.
Yeah.
Because of that. And I'm like, you idiot.
Yeah.
You absolute fool.
Yeah.
And obviously my story worked out perfectly. But man, I'm so disappointed in my past self because I was just so shallow.
Yeah.
So shallow.
I'm glad you admit to that. So that's the next question that people ask is, well, a lot of women do this, but men aren't willing. And what do you think about that as a guy?
Man, I think as a guy, first of all, I would say this is so touchy. I do think men and women are different. I do think they're different. I think the way that we're hardwired is absolutely different. I don't think you can read the Bible from Genesis forward and say men and women are similar.
Well, there's similarities.
I think there's similarities, but I don't think you can read it in any capacity and say, they're very similar. I think we're so different.
Interesting.
And that's a great thing. And I think visually and attractiveness, I do think there's truth in, I think there's truth in stereotypes. Now, it's when you use a stereotype to judge a million different people and you don't have any regard for any individual.
Yeah.
Like, men are physically more attractive to women and just want sex more than anything. And if we have an entire day together and we're emotionally connected and we do all these things and we go to the farmer's market and at the end of the day we have sex, well, the sex is the cupcake for me and all the emotional bonding and quality time was the cherry on top. And for you, the emotional bonding and the quality time and the sweetness and the romance was the cupcake and the sex was the cherry on top.
Yeah, and we've heard that. Yeah.
That's a stereotype. And while it might be true for some and maybe generally true for men, I don't subscribe to that because that's not how I'm wired.
Yeah.
Right. When it comes to emotional unity and connection and sex.
100%. So it is maybe more difficult for guys, but it's not impossible.
It's not impossible. I will say this though. I think without doing any research, without having any like brain science on my fingertips, my hypothesis would be this. Men probably need to have a little bit more physical attraction in the beginning, along with a spiritual, emotional attraction to really pursue and be convinced that they want to choose a girl. And
but I think to that point, like there has to be a physical draw, you're saying, but like I think maybe guys need to challenge the standard of that.
Yeah, I think
draw.
Absolutely men need to challenge what their scale of physical attraction looks like.
Yeah.
How realistic that can be. I think, we way over glorify that spark of physical. I think we take that physical attraction and project a whole entire, being of what their emotional and spiritual maturity look like. And then when it's not that, because they're so physically attractive, we can kind of still stick around because we're so physically attracted to the sex object, of a girl instead of who they really are. I think you have a lot of men, marry women that they're deeply physically attracted to, but emotionally and spiritually hate.
Yeah.
Or
there's nothing there.
They're annoyed with. They're so, and that's a little bit of a stereotype. But I would just say, like, I think anecdotally, I've seen and heard and felt a lot less stories where the men were pretty meh. I think that's what I know it doesn't sound smart. Yeah, but the guy's just like, well, physically she was meh, but her godly character and her emotional maturity really stuck out to me, so I asked her out. Like she was a really godly woman.
Do you think that it's possible to change that?
I do think it's possible to say that, and I would just say the guy.
Say that or to change that.
What I would say is the guy probably just needs to physically have a little bit more of I am physically attracted to them in the beginning than maybe the female, and maybe some of that is just like
interesting.
because men are physically more wired, like,
yeah, I know.
and as
We've
far
done
as
a lot of study
attractive,
on
like
this. Yeah.
there are neurological brain studies where men are more turned on physiologically by sight
Yeah.
than a female is.
Yeah. So, but it's just what the standard is for that guy, I think needs to be challenged.
If you want to double click into
you're
that,
a guy that like has been really influenced by pornography or has really crazy high standards.
Yeah.
Like, and only you can assess that out for yourself and or maybe some of your community. Like I hear people say all the time, like, I'm only going to date this ethnicity. Like this is the only ethnicity that I'm attracted to.
Hate
and
that.
I'm like, okay, like stop.
Yeah. What I would say to that as far as challenging your scale is this. If the world of printed media and like digital media didn't exist, what would your physical scale of beauty look like?
Yeah.
Meaning like your only scale was what you've personally seen in real life from woman to woman.
Yeah.
Like that for me blows my mind and be like, oh, well, say I lived in the year of like 1800. There's no porn magazines running around. There's no magazines of People Mag. There's no such thing as the internet. I only had the physical compass of beauty of what I see in day-to-day real life experiences. Well, all of a sudden, a girl who I might have been mad about is very beautiful to me.
Yeah, it's going to change. Well, here's a testimonial from a dude. The woman I've loved the hardest / most was somebody I never expected and wasn't attracted to at first. Her personality was electric though, and I quickly fell in love. I'm telling you guys, she became the most beautiful woman ever to me when I saw her for who she was.
Amen.
So good.
I love it. And it's this whole mind, I was just like, I was thinking if we read Proverbs 31 out loud right now and we had to take a tally for a remark, that is like the scripture, right?
Yeah.
For beauty of a woman. I think it mentions physical beauty 3 times. And all 30 of those verses, physical beauty is mentioned 3 times.
Wow.
Which means it's like 34 mentions of character, spiritual, emotional maturity and qualities.
Wow.
3 times.
That's it.
That's 10%.
Yeah. Of all of the rest of them. So this somebody left this comment, and I actually think it goes to what you're saying. I definitely think physical attraction can grow over time, but there has to be some of it at the beginning. If it's absolutely absent, it doesn't matter how great the other qualities are, the physical attraction will never be there.
Yeah, I'd say if it's absolutely absent, meaning it's 0, it's going to be tough.
If you can't like look at the person and say, yeah, objectively, this person's attractive, I'm just not that attracted to them. That's like me, let's say Timothée Chalamet, okay, actor. I don't know if people know who that is, but he's objectively attractive. I don't personally find him very attractive, but yeah, he's an attractive person.
Yeah.
Right? So that's kind of what this person is saying.
Yeah, I think probably a lot of it just comes down to this idea that their physical attraction makes me happy. And it's not about I want to be physically attracted to them enough so that we can procreate to have children and enjoy a sex life together. Which, by the way, like when you see them that day, that's probably the best they're gonna quote physically ever look. Like,
yeah, totally.
What do you guys think happens as we age?
Yeah.
Well, like, how do you explain physical attraction at 50?
I know.
70?
Yeah. Because of all the other elements it's not just because they've kept in shape. It's because you have so many other things that you've bonded in life on.
But like your love for them should not and cannot be based off physical attraction.
Right. Exactly.
Like,
but I see what this person is saying, which is what you're saying, especially for guys. There has to be at least something there.
Yeah. And I say that and I still fall back on but if I'm really being honest, I think for the man, there's got to be a little bit more semblance of physical attraction.
There's got to be something there.
Yeah.
I think I hear that. I think for most people, there should be something where you can say, I find this is an attractive person, but I'm just not that attractive to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I say that too, by the way, like with a full, like just admonition that I want women to be physically attracted to their spouse. I want both. I want both.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe this is the disclaimer at the beginning. Like, we want godly marriages left and right that are physically attracted to one another and are enjoying the gift of sex.
Yes.
However,
absolutely. Oh my gosh.
but more importantly, we want people marrying each other because of their godliness and their character.
Yes.
Not because of exclusive physical attraction. Because if it's physical attraction and that is what's most important, you're trying to marry a sex object, not a person. Right. And you're marrying someone for what they can do for you sexually and not who they are and their heart and their character.
So a girl commented that she did try to be with somebody that she wasn't attracted to. And all of her pastors said, in marriage, it'll get better. And she said, I tried it and I almost made the biggest mistake of my life. Please don't promote this because it could have ruined my life seeing a video like this.
Wow.
So I got that comment and I was like, oh my goodness. Now, that goes back to the fact that we do not promote marrying somebody that at the end of the day, you are not physically into. Like what we just said earlier, I don't even think you should be in a full-blown exclusive relationship with somebody you have zero physical attraction to.
So you're saying not only on the day of the wedding, if you can't say I'm physically attracted to you, you should not get married. You're saying after 45 to 90 days, they want to be in a relationship with you and you're still not physically attracted to them, you should say no.
I would. And I would say, if everything else is there, you could challenge your heart and maybe God will work on it. And maybe you're going to over time be attracted physically to that person. But I would end it then until the Lord works on that, because it's just not fair to the other person. And you definitely should not get married to somebody where there is no physical attraction or 1%.
Yeah. I would say I probably would have to agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I would probably, ask is well, was your heart in the right place? But regardless if it was or was not, I would say you should not get it. If your heart was in the right place and you're saying that, right, say that person was actually living a very shallow, superficial judgment of attraction.
Yeah.
I would say, you actually shouldn't get married. You're actually right in both instances.
Right.
Even if your heart was in the right place or in the wrong place, you should not get married.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is going to be a tough one.
Totally. All right, we're going to end on this. This is a great comment. Before online dating, people often became friends first. The bond and the quality time would lead to attraction. Now people go on a date with a stranger to see if there's chemistry. While I agree that physical attraction is key and needs to be there before a long-term relationship is considered, I think the new dating culture doesn't allow enough time for an intimate connection to ignite. It's not always fireworks right out the gate. At least give it a few weeks and do interesting things together, not just coffee and dinner. Come up with little adventures. And if they balk at that, well, then you'll know it's not for you anyway, without putting all of the focus just on chemistry. Summed it all up in that comment. Thank you. The Heart of Dating podcast is created by Kait and JJ Tomlin. Shout out to our epic audio and video editor, Scott Caro. We have an amazing Heart of Dating team who helps bring the show to you each week. I want to shout out Kelsey Napier, our Heart of Dating digital marketing coordinator, and Elena Gibson, our brand and community manager. We couldn't do it without them. Now, if you guys have never ranked us or reviewed us on iTunes or Spotify, would you consider doing that? It would mean so much because our podcast can get more discovered and more people can learn how to better date as Christians. Don't we all want that? We launch our podcast each and every week on Wednesdays, so we will see you next week.